Did you know? The very first person to die for American freedom in the Revolution was a black man? Yes, before George Washington commanded the army, before Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, and before the United States even existed, a man of African and Native heritage gave his life for liberty. His name, Crispus Attucks. The year was 1770. Boston was a city on edge. British soldiers patrolled the streets, enforcing unpopular taxes. Ordinary colonists were angry, tired of being treated like second-class citizens in their own land. Among them was Crispus Attucks, born around 1723. He was of mixed African and Native American descent, believed to be the son of an enslaved man and a native woman. His early years are a mystery, but most agree he escaped slavery in his 20s and became a free man, working as a sailor and rope maker. That detail matters, because sailors in Boston were some of the loudest voices against British rule. They were independent, rugged, and not afraid of a fight. Crispus Attucks fit right in. On the night of March 5th, 1770, tension exploded. Colonists gathered in Boston, angry at the presence of British troops. They jeered, shouted insults, and threw snowballs and debris. Crispus Attucks stood at the front of the crowd. Some accounts say he was the leader that night, urging people forward. Others claim he simply found himself swept into history. But what happened next changed everything. The British soldiers, frightened and surrounded, opened fire. The first to fall was Crispus Attucks, shot twice in the chest. He collapsed instantly, becoming the first martyr of the American Revolution. In total, 5 colonists died that night, but it was Attucks's death that captured attention. For the first time, blood had been spilled in the struggle for liberty. Think about that. America's very first revolutionary hero was a black man. The killings shocked Boston. The event became known as the Boston Massacre. Patriot leaders like Samuel Adams and Paul Revere spread the story far and wide, using it as propaganda to fuel anti-British anger. Revere's famous engraving of the massacre was printed everywhere, and at the center of it all was Crispus Attucks. Newspapers called him a hero, a symbol of resistance against tyranny. In fact, some even compared him to the ancient heroes of Rome. At his funeral, a crowd of more than 10,000 people, nearly half of Boston's population, lined the streets. They buried Attucks with honor, alongside the other victims. He was celebrated in his time. Yet, over the years, his name faded into the margins of American history. Isn't it ironic? The first person to die for America's freedom was a man of color. Yet for centuries, his story has been left out of the nation's mainstream narrative. Crispus Attucks's legacy was debated for decades. Some historians argued about whether he provoked the soldiers. Others tried to downplay his role, uncomfortable with a black man holding such a symbolic place in American history. But black communities never forgot. In the 1800s, abolitionists celebrated him as proof that African Americans had always been at the center of the fight for liberty. Writers, poets, and activists held up Crispus Attucks as a martyr, demanding that the nation recognize his sacrifice. In 1888, more than a century after his death, Boston finally erected a monument in his honor. Today, his name is inscribed in history books, though often just a footnote. But here's the truth. Without Crispus Attucks, the revolution may not have ignited when it did. His death turned protest into resistance, and resistance into revolution. So why does his story matter in 2025? Because Crispus Attucks represents a truth we can't ignore. America's story of freedom is incomplete without the contributions of black and native people. His sacrifice proves that liberty was never just the dream of wealthy white men in powdered wigs. It was the dream of ordinary people, the oppressed, the marginalized, the forgotten. His story also challenges us to ask, who else has been erased from the pages of history? Think about it. How different would our understanding of America be if schools taught that the very first hero of the revolution was a black man? Maybe then, we'd see that the fight for equality has always been at the heart of the American experiment. Crispus Attucks died at age 47, never knowing the America he fought for. But his courage lit the spark that would grow into revolution. So the next time you hear about the Founding Fathers, remember the man who gave the first life for America's freedom. His name deserves to be spoken, honored, and remembered. Crispus Attucks, the first martyr of the American Revolution. What do you think? Should Crispus Attucks be taught in every American classroom? Or do you think history will keep burying his story? Comment your thoughts below. And if you'd like me to cover more forgotten Black heroes of history, let me know who I should highlight next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because these are the stories that deserve to live forever.